How do you quantify the impact of the life of a man who is gone or was gone far too soon and changed music forever? That's a simple enough question to start things off with in the 8 o'clock hour. This is the Gallo Radio Show, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm, SuperTalk TV. Thank you for being with us. Richard Cross, Lance Talbert in the studio. And now Roy Turner joins us. He is executive director of the Birthplace, the Elvis Presley Birthplace in Tupelo. Roy, good morning. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm great. So let me just throw that big old question out at you that I mentioned just a second ago. How do you quantify the impact of a life that was gone far too soon for what he did forever for music?
Well, I honestly don't know if one can. Visiting with visitors from all over the world, there are as many fans because of his story as there are because of his music. Mm-hmm. It's very interesting how foreigners, I often hear say, he is the American dream. He lived the American dream. And I never, to my recollection, hear any of us citizens of America say that, the visitors that come through. So I think it's that rags to riches story, sort of a Cinderella story that captivates as much as his music. And God knows his music moves and continues to move millions. We get about 120,000 visitors a year. All these years after he's been gone. And especially after Baz Luhrmann's Elvis film, a huge increase in younger people and in African Americans. That movie did a lot to, I think, educate people on who Elvis really was and where he came from and how he never really forgot that.
You know the story of Elvis Presley better than most. Was there a point in his life, and I'm assuming this point would be somewhat early on, where it became evident that he was going to become the global sensation that he became? Because there are lots of people who are talented, and there are lots of people who have the ability to communicate music to the masses, but there are not many people in world history that have the ability to transcend.
I don't know that anyone had any idea that he would reach the heights that he did and touch and affect as many lives as he did. But one very strong cheerleader was his mother. She always said, you have this voice. It's a God-given gift, and you're supposed to use it. And I think she was the great encourager. After her, listening to your interview with Lieutenant Governor Hoseman about teachers, his fifth grade teacher was a great encourager. And, a lot of times people in our lives, be they school teachers or parents or even best friends, fail to encourage us and are more apt to say, oh, you can't do that. But I think his fifth grade teacher, Mrs. Oletha Grimes, was very instrumental when she put him on stage in fifth grade, and all the kids were just mesmerized by his voice.
Yeah. Visiting with Roy Turner. He is the executive director of the Elvis Presley Birthplace in Tupelo. Remind people where that is exactly in Tupelo, so that if they are making a trip specifically or passing through, absolutely just passing through, can stop by and visit.
Well, it's in the part of Tupelo that historically was East Tupelo in Elvis's day especially, and it was a totally separate incorporated city. But if you're coming down I-22, we're exit 87. There's a nice marker a couple of miles before you get to us. If you're coming in on 45, you just hit 22 south, and you're going to be right there at our exit, Veterans Boulevard. We have a beautiful 15-acre park which is most people know was a gift from Elvis when he was 21 years old. And that in itself, I think, says a lot about who he was.
As you interact with some of these 100,000 visitors that come through each year, is there a part of the Elvis story that tends to be a surprise to people as they learn about his upbringing, his life, his transition to global superstar?
A lot of them don't realize that we have this park because of him, and that he did this as a 21-year-old. And that seems to be a very moving story. In fact, I was visiting with a family from Denmark yesterday, and when I was telling them how the park came into being because of Elvis's generosity, and shared with them that I was one of the kids that benefited from his generosity, had my first dance in ninth grade in the youth center that he had built for us, which is now our museum, the lady started crying. And she said, that's the spirit of Elvis. The other thing that I think really touches them is when they go into his childhood church and see that service. They're very moved. And, for so many of them, especially our European and Asian visitors, they've never seen a church service like that because they're more accustomed to more orthodox, ritualistic, very structured worship services. And of course, he grew up in the Assembly of God, which if you felt it, you showed it, be it by raising your hands or speaking in tongues or breaking into dance. And that seems to really let them know where he came from, why he moved like he did, why he sang hymns like he did.
It's really, really fascinating. Elvis Presley Enterprises, the estate. I know that's completely separate from all of you, but Graceland,
Yes.
which is what, hour and 45 minutes or so from Tupelo and the birthplace, is a really important place because it's where he lived his adult life. It's a very important place to Elvis fans. There have been issues, I suppose, that we could say with some of his estate through the years. Is there any interaction between the birthplace and Graceland and Memphis?
Absolutely. They bring a bus down every Friday because they have people that have flown into Memphis and they would like to hear the rest of the story.
Yeah.
And on some occasions, they brought 2 buses a week if it merited to do so because, he was 2 months shy of his 14th birthday when he left here to move to Memphis. So his childhood memories are Tupelo. It was his teenage memories and his adult memories that were Memphis. One lady was telling Ramona Edge, who is one of the ladies that does the presentation in his little childhood church, afterwards, it was a mother and a daughter, and the mother said, well, we're going to Memphis next. We're going to Graceland next. That's where Elvis really is. And Ramona responded, well, just remember, Elvis built Graceland, but Tupelo built Elvis. And I think she really nailed it because the morals that he had, the faith he had, that Southern hospitality that he never shed, and often was made fun of because of it in the Hollywood circles, because that wasn't something they were accustomed to. Yes, ma'am, and yes, sir, and standing when a lady came in the room, just things that we were all taught as kids, as much by example as being told you do that.
Yeah. Roy, our time is just about up. I just can't help but think as we wrap up this conversation, passed away in 1977, far too young, especially for a talent like his. What if he lived another 30 years and had continued to perform? And we know what his impact on music was. What might it have been?
Had he been allowed to do what he wanted to, his creativeness, and not have been stifled by Colonel Tom Parker, I think he would have probably tinkered with writing songs. He would certainly tried different forms of music. no doubt he would have done concerts all around the world because he wanted to do that. In those foreign countries that never got to see him live, today we have 135 British coming to celebrate his birthday. Yesterday we had a busload of the French fan club and a busload from Belgium that were coming
Wow.
to celebrate his birthday.
Roy, I cannot thank you for your time this morning enough. Appreciate you sharing the story and hope we can visit again down the line.
And, if you live in Mississippi and haven't been to check it out, you should. It's our number one tourist attraction in the state.
It's in Tupelo, the birthplace of Elvis Presley. Roy Turner, Executive Director, thank you so much.
Thank you.